Kingdom Hearts 3, the conclusion to the Darkseeker saga the fans have been waiting for since it was announced back in 2013's E3. Since then, the anticipation and hype has only gone upward, leading up to the release for longtime Kingdom Hearts fans as well as the new fans entering the series with the help of the remasters, trailers, marketing, interviews, special events, and the content creators building up. However, given the giant gap between announcement and release, you can probably imagine that things didn't go over very smoothly for development. Development had a lot of ups, downs, twists, and turns to the point where one year there was hardly any information given about the game, and things looked very concerning during that time. For those who have been paying close attention to KH3's development since it started, like I have, you have seen this game progress immensely from what it once started out as, to now with the game finally in our hands. So many fun times staying up late at night to watch the newest release trailer, or watch a live stream where Square would be showing off more of this game, and we'll have so many more moments like that in the future for future games. But there was always that tiny part in the back of our minds asking, after all of this time, all of this build up, all of this anticipation, will the final product be worth the wait we've had for years? Well, today we'll be looking at Kingdom Hearts 3 to answer that question. Since this game released recently, here's how I'm going to handle the story. I'll give a generalized summary of what you do without spoilers, and in this video, whenever I am going to bring spoilers up, I'll mention it as well as leave a time in the video to skip ahead so that you can avoid said spoilers. That way, if you want to get this game for yourself or haven't beaten the game yet, you can watch the video for the most part and still enjoy the game from a brand new experience. Sora has been summoned by Master Yen Sid to tell him that he needs to gather allies, the Guardians of Light, in order to defeat Master Xehanort and his 13 Seekers of Darkness, or I guess 12 Seekers since he counts as one. Yen Sid also says that Sora needs to get the power of waking in order to save Ventus, who is hidden within the realm of darkness. He was supposed to get this during the Mark of Mastery exam, but unfortunately Xehanort interfered, which prevented this and also weakened him in the process. Sora is told that he must first regain his strength alongside Gonlo and Goofy. He makes the decision to go to Olympus Coliseum but misses the mark again. I really don't understand how Sora has messed this up twice now. I imagine that you are actually able to see where you're landing when you're heading out, but it's whatever. From here on, Sora, Donald, and Goofy then go to various Disney worlds and run into members of the True Organization 13. Meanwhile, Riku and Mickey are working to try and save Aqua from the Realm of Darkness, who would then lead them to where Ventus is, since she is the only one who knows where he is. Both teams alongside Chip, Dale, and Nienzo are working towards trying to free Roxas's heart from Sora's body so that he can be his own person. Kairi and Lee are training with the wizard Merlin to learn how to use keyblades for the upcoming battle, and Maleficent and Pete are searching the worlds for a black box. If you didn't understand anything that I've said, all I can say is sorry. Keep in mind, I abridged the general plot of this game and didn't give spoilers yet. If you don't understand what led up to any of this, or even who half of the people I mentioned just now are, that's because this game is heavily connected to all the previous ones before this. Since I'm explaining KH3's story and not the other ones, because explaining every other game's story and why they are important would make this video much longer than it already is, I'm not going to do that. There are plenty of other sources where you can get the story for Kingdom Hearts. You can play the other games, you can look them up online. There's even some things in-game for KH3 that you can look at. Realistically, you don't have to play the other games to read up on the story. People have been saying this for years, but no one wanted to listen apparently. And I'll explain more about the story later because there's a really good reason why I want to. Compared to the previous installments in the series, this game was made on a completely different engine and in turn has a different look. So, how does it look? This looks perfect. If Square told me that they could make this game look any better than it already is, I would assume they were lying to me. The new art style works everywhere, even for some of the worlds that have a completely different visual aesthetic. Worlds, areas, and characters from previous installments have so much more detail now than ever before, and for both the older movie inclusions as well as the new, they look like they are extremely close to the original source material, if not better than the original material. There are some cutscenes that play out some scenes of movies so accurately and detailed that if you played them side by side without labeling them and asked someone to point out the original, I'm pretty sure most people would have a very difficult time with it. This art style brings out everything of the Disney aesthetic people know, and it's something that most other games aren't able to replicate to the effect that this game does. This is also closer to the CGI of the previous games that the fans wanted to play for a long time. And it's not to say that the graphics of the previous games were bad, in fact they were great for the time and still are today, but this game goes above and beyond. Now, just because the in-game graphics are incredible doesn't mean Square Enix is slacking on the CGI. No. Square is known for their incredible CGI, and the cutscenes for those are beautiful. They're even better than the CGI from the older games, which makes sense, and those were already amazing to begin with. And now that I think about it, it's actually crazy that there'll come a point where an entire Cage game might look like this. The way it is right now is perfectly fine, but technology changes very fast. The next advancement might actually be right around the corner. The music is a massive collection of songs from the older games, but has some new additions as well. Some of the older songs are remixes, and said remixes are incredible. They have a sense of familiarity, but also a fresh new taste to them, or sound, rather, given this music. There were times where I ended up turning up my TV in excitement due to some of these renditions. They got me incredibly hyped while I was playing the game. The new songs alongside these are all fantastic. To be honest, this game would have to have the best soundtrack in the series because it contains so many songs from the series, makes some of them better, and the new ones are amazing as well. For voice acting, there's a mix between people who retain their roles from previous Kingdom Hearts games, Disney representatives that reprise their roles from the movies they're in, and Disney representatives that tend to play pseudo versions of the originals and video games. I'm very glad that I've seen some of these guys in some of the other games that I've reviewed. It feels nice being able to mention them again. Everyone does amazing jobs for their characters. The only ones I have a slight issue with are Donald and Xehanort. Donald for the most part is fine, there's just a few times where it sounds kinda shoddy and a little slower than he probably should speak, and Xehanort doesn't have as much of an impactful voice to me as before. No offense to the new one, he's good like everyone else, it's just very difficult to live up to the previous voice that was the late Leonard Nimoy. It's different, but maybe I just have to get used to it. This game also runs smoothly on my PS4 Pro, aside from a few small things which I'll bring up later. This, along with load times, can vary depending on the console version, so they can take a little bit of time. But load screens are few and far between in Worlds because of the areas for Worlds being so massive, and the game most of the time seamlessly transitions back into the gameplay to keep the pace. Plus, for some load screens, there are pseudo Instagram posts that relate to a character and what's going on. I am wondering who's taking some of these photos though. A lot of them are kinda impossible without someone else taking the photo. And also, there is an option to lock the game at 30 frames per second, so that is something that some people can do if their console isn't exactly up to snuff. Let me start off by saying, there is a reason this video is longer than most videos I do. I hope you pay attention to everything past this because, trust me, there is a lot that I have to explain, and most of it weaves together with other things. So let's just hope that I organize this really well. At the beginning of the game, you'll have to make two decisions. The first affects your stats for the amount of base health and MP you have, I'll explain what MP is later, and the second affects the order of abilities you unlock through leveling up. Throughout the worlds that Sora and his friends, both old and new, explore, they will gain 3 different types of abilities. Actions, which are usually combo modifiers, support, which are passive effects, like defense stats in some situations, reading an enemy's health, things like that, and mobility, which is stuff like dodging. Sora's the only one that gets mobility though. There are 3 primary ways to get abilities which also affect your stats. Leveling up by defeating enemies, completing some stage events where you can't progress without doing them, and putting on equipment. If an ability is tied to an equipment item, then you get that ability for free. However, for abilities you get the other 2 ways, you have to use an amount of AP to equip them, and there is a limit on the amount of AP you have, so you won't be able to constantly equip abilities unless you accommodate for it. There are items that increase the amount of AP a character can have at one time, like equipment and AP boost though. Speaking of which, some items help you out in combat by refilling your health or gauges, which you can automatically refill out of battle if you set it to, and some permanently increases your stats. Equipment falls into 3 categories: weapons, armor, and accessories. Weapons are obviously the tools you and your friends use to fight. Armor increases your defense while you wear it. There are some that also give resistances to magic spells. Accessories are the 3rd type, which gives increases to strength, magic, and AP. All of these categories have some items with abilities tied to them, and it is a very broad scale on what they can do, so yeah, mentioning them, not exactly gonna happen. This game has a brand new mechanic called situation commands, which looks very familiar, but trust me, it's not what you think. They occur from time to time for, well, a lot of things. Makes sense for this to be vague because it's a situational command. Even though it is kind of vague, I did have to mention it for the next couple of things I'm talking about, so make sure to remember this term. Also, because I'm going to be saying this a lot, to abbreviate and help make this long video as short as I possibly can, I'm going to call them SCs. As you progress through the game, you'll obtain magic spells. Using magic will deplete some of your MP or magic points gauge. See? Told you I'd explain it. About 4 paragraphs later, but that's besides the point. If your MP gauge becomes empty, then you'll either have to wait for it to refill or use items to accelerate the process. If you damage enemies enough with magic, an SC will appear for a grand magic spell, which is a stronger version of the magic spells that you use to build up the gauge that cost no MP to use. Sora is able to carry 3 keyblades at one time and can switch between them at any given moment, including during combos. Each keyblade has their own stats, abilities, shot locks, I'll explain that one later, and a new mechanic and SC called Keyblade/Form Changes. This SC occurs when enough damage is dealt with your keyblade. Activating these causes Sora to transform his keyblade into a different weapon with alternate, more powerful attack and magic methods. There are also special abilities tied to these forms. Each transformation has a finishing move that can do a massive amount of damage. The change will go away if the finishing move is used or if the gauge for the transformation runs out. Some of the transformations you unlock are Truck Freak, Crazy Boy, Laid Back, the Fighter, and there is one form that stands out among all of the others. The way this form works is more of a high risk, high reward option than the others. The chance to activate this form can occur when you have low health. Going into this form refills all of your health. However, you aren't able to use some of your other options like magic and shot locks. Again, I'll explain that in a bit. You do gain an SC, Risk Taker, which halves Sora's health but also increases his damage. There are 2 other SCs, Team Attacks and Attractions. Team Attacks randomly pop up and allow you to perform a strong move alongside one or more of your party members, each doing something different. Attractions are Disney amusement park rides. No, I am not joking. That can be used if you first hit an enemy with a green ring around them and then activate them. The attraction that appears depends on the area you're in. All SCs have a time limit on them. When that time runs out, you won't be able to use that SC until it reappears. Alright, I'm finally done using the term SC. I've gone on about it for 5 paragraphs now. Sora has a lot of mobility in this game, including free running and parkour. Free running is basically running up and along walls and sliding down slopes. Parkour isn't an actual name given. I'm mainly saying it because it feels more accurate, since this is usually automatically hopping across small gaps and over obstacles. Occasionally though, he can slide over to a position then slide out while firing projectiles. He also free falls when he goes down big enough of a distance. During this time, when an attack indication appears, you can do a diving slam attack that deals damage to a large area and breaks certain objects. By air sliding into a wall or a pole, you'll activate flow motion. After activating it, you can then create a large attack which hits multiple enemies. Sora is also able to use flow motion on rails, which sends him skating forward. This can be used in normal areas or in special segments called rail gauntlets, where Sora does his flow motion but can shoot projectiles at enemies that appear. Sora also has 2 options for combat that revolves around your focus gauge. One of them, which I'm finally explaining, is shot locks, a special projectile attack that has 2 ways of using them. One when you have reached a max number you can target, and one for being under that number. Each keyblade has 2 different shot locks tied to them. The other mechanic with the focus gauge is air stepping. This is a form of flow motion that sends Sora over to the last thing he targeted, and if it is an enemy, he can attack afterwards with a flow motion attack. This, unlike shot locks though, doesn't use any of the focus gauge to use. While proceeding, you'll obtain heart binders. These allow Sora to use links. Links have Sora summon someone to assist him in battle. These cause a full MP gauge to use, so you'll have to be very careful about trying to use these. Sora also obtains a gummy phone, which isn't used for combat, though you can take it out and try not to get slapped while doing so. The gummy phone is used as a way to communicate between worlds. You know, I honestly think this kind of invention would have been incredibly useful earlier in the series. Just imagine how many situations would be different if Kingdom Hearts had cell phones way earlier than this. But anyways, the gummy phone also keeps track of your progression of the story, high scores, and other various things. A journal, essentially. This phone comes with a camera that you can use to take pictures. You might find some symbols that look like Mickey Mouse's head. Sora, Donald, and Goofy assume it's the king's doing, and some of them make sense if we assume that, but some of them are very conveniently made, and I don't know why he would be indenting his symbol into walls, making them out of rocks, and putting them into a ball and chain, but regardless, if you take a picture of one of these lucky emblems, you can potentially get rewarded based on how many you have collected. Some of them will be really hard to find, but don't worry, Sora, Donald, and Goofy will sometimes tell you when they spot one for you. And then you'll be looking around like an idiot while the game characters laugh at you because you can't find it because they have a galaxy brain and you don't. And just when you thought this phone has done it all, it can also play games too. You might stumble upon one of these classic Kingdom minigames during your adventures. Finding these gives you access to play these little Game & Watch style minigames anytime, anywhere. And there are a good amount of them, which you can also have high scores in. The Moogles are once again making interstellar travel. These shops are your non-stop go-to place for items and equipment, and you can drop off any synthesis items you get from enemies and chests. These synthesis items can be well synthesized to create stronger items and equipment than what they sell or don't sell otherwise. There are other benefits for being such a loyal customer to these guys. By bringing the Moogles certain amounts of synthesis items, you'll complete collector's goals, which earns you the right to synthesize or buy items that are listed for a particular goal. While making these trips, there is a chance that you'll get a prize postcard from these Moogles. Putting these postcards into a mailbox in Twilight Town will give you special items for your troubles. Now, even though the Moogles are some creative geniuses, there are some times where they have a hard time of thinking of something new. To help them out, they'll ask you to take a picture of something in the worlds you travel to. Doing so rewards you with a special equipment item that you can't get through other means. The Moogles also have one last thing, the Keyblade Forge. The Keyblade Forge gives Sora the ability to make his Keyblade stronger, giving them stat boosts and abilities at the cost of the needed material. As you travel from world to world, you'll run across ingredients. These ingredients can be gotten through shops, a minigame within 100 Acre Woods, and inside baskets and takeout boxes because every world uses the same exact baskets and takeout boxes for some reason. Whenever you're around some ingredients, Sora, Donald, and Goofy will say things like, "This might be a good spot to find some ingredients." You can bring these items to Little Chef in the bistro of Twilight Town. Not Remy, Little Chef. Even though Remy is his name, it's probably just because he can't talk to people, and is very, very much not Ratatouille, as some fake fans have called him. And you know who you are. You definitely know who you are. Bringing the ingredients to him allows him to cook the food, with your body as he plays puppeteer. If you can do the minigames for these well enough, you'll be rewarded for putting in good effort. Cooking this food also allows you to take it with you and eat it whenever you want. There are separate categories of food which you can combine for a meal. When you eat a meal, you end up getting a temporary stat boost for the entire party. So in case you're having a bit of an issue with a part of the game, you can use these to help out a little. Now, you've heard me go on and on about going to different worlds, but how are we supposed to get to them? By gummy ships, of course. To prepare for these dangerous ventures, there is a gummy shop ran by Huey, Dewey, and Louie where you can purchase parts for your ship, and a gummy editor which allows you to create your own ship or edit ones that you already have through blueprints. As you sail across the galactic sea, you'll blast through crystals, dodge enemy fire, travel through nebulas, upgrade your ship, and collect plenty of prizes, weapons, and treasure. While traveling, you'll see heartless markers on the screen. Going towards these triggers a battle with the rules of said battles, varying depending on which one you go to. These battles also range in difficulty, so be sure to look out for that and think before going into a random battle, because you might end up dying for it. By completing these battles, you'll get a rank which in turn gives you rewards. The rank you get depends on how well you do in these battles. The better the rank you have by the end of the battle, the better the rewards will be. There are also gummy missions that you can do to get valuable items. You'll get more and more missions as you progress through the game and by taking pictures of constellations with your gummy phone. Doing these constellations also gives you a blueprint for the constellation you found. Collecting the full set of fragments for a blueprint will also give you said blueprints. Finally, the longest part of this review is over. The combat in this game is so good to me. With the amount of options you have, there is honestly something for everyone with combat. Want to be a close range powerhouse? Happy Gear, Wheel Fate, and Hero's Deputy got you covered. Want to overwhelm your enemies with magic from a distance? Ever After, Crystal Snow, and Shooting Stars for you. Want to be balanced? Mix and match between the ones you got. The abilities, shot locks, and transformations that are tied to them help encourage people to explore different playstyles and have different experiences going through the game. Plus, you always have the Moogle shops to give yourself stronger equipment, the bistro if you need a little bit of a boost, and the Keyblade Force to help prevent Keyblades from getting completely useless. All of the forms feel like they have a use, There's also something that I like to call transformation stocking, where you can go into a form and keep it in your back pocket by changing Keyblades so you can use it later, and the form's gauge doesn't drain while it's in your back pocket. That in combination with the abilities, the links, and magic you unlock, plus the flow motion, team attacks, and attractions make combos and fighting in general a lot of fun and satisfying. Everything allows for a ton of experimentation on what works for you, and all of it's optional. You're hardly ever forced to play a certain way that isn't what you want to do, and what you are able to do is flashy and it's very nice to look at. Worlds feel incredibly alive in this game. For those of you new to the Kingdom Hearts series, the reason why this is such a major deal for the Kingdom Hearts fandom is because most of the previous games didn't have nearly as much interaction with things in the world itself, didn't have a lot that felt worthwhile to explore, and this is the biggest thing, didn't have as many NPCs around who have conversations that you can listen to.
Who are you people?
These worlds also feel like they're connected to the events that happen in the worlds due to the fact that after beating said worlds, some areas are different and sometimes new areas open up. Going to certain areas can also trigger conversations or lines between the party members about what happened when you were there earlier.
How did that Titan survive a fall from all the way up here?
Wait, you fought a Titan on the side of a mountain? Sora, that's amazing!
The writing for dialogue in general is some of the best that this series has had. The references that some of them provide, though a small percentage of the time is a little bit forced, the characters can sometimes talk about the situation going on while they're fighting, and there were some cutscenes that were amazing to me for one reason or another, and the sad moments, they really got to me, I'm not gonna lie. The worlds also vary greatly in design for how you travel through them and what you're able to do in them. Along with the interactions of the worlds, there's a decent amount of things that you could do in post-game. You have the gummy phone for taking pictures, which you can use to stop and smell the flowers and cherish a moment, especially if you find a reference here or there. The lucky emblems and photo missions promote exploration and looking at the small details of the worlds, which there are plenty of. There is a decent amount of minigames which you are able to do at any point in time once you've beaten the world. Also, near the end of the game, you unlock battle gates. Battle gates have you face stronger versions of enemies you've encountered in the game and a few from earlier installments. One of these even has a super boss, which might be tough to defeat. All of this helps to keep the worlds from feeling the same as other worlds and from making them boring. The gummy ships also have a ton of things that you can do with collecting blueprints, constellations, and treasures by exploring the cosmos and upgrading for battles against Gummy Ship Heartless. And you can basically make your gummy ship into anything you want. And if you don't want to do the Heartless battles, you don't have to, aside from a few times where you have to beat a boss, and even then it doesn't happen very often. And there are some synthesis items here too, but if you don't care for that either, you don't have to worry about that. And I got through the game just fine without even having to really explore all that much. Now, there's not a lot of extra boss fights in the game, and I do feel like there should be more, but I'm fine with the content that we have. Twilight Town is heavily cut down. What happened to everything that made Twilight Town what it is known for? What makes it what it is? The clock tower and the sandlot are gone, the tunnel system is incredibly undermined, and you can't even go inside the mansion or the mysterious tower, despite the mysterious tower being in a trailer back before the game release. Though, of course, cut content is in games all the time, and I don't care too much about the mysterious tower not being playable. I wouldn't mind it as much if there were new areas we could go to. Sure, there is the bistro, which you can't even go inside aside from the minigame, by the way, and walking around looking at people, but there's nothing else here. This world is so small compared to all the other ones in the game, aside from the minigame world. And every iteration of Twilight Town before this was massive. I don't understand why there's so much of this world cut out. Being underwater sucks. Moving around underwater did not feel comfortable to me, and being underwater period takes away almost all of your options. Even regular combos don't feel good to use. The only thing that is good is that magic works differently, but even then, it's not even worth it since everything else underwater wise is horrible. Now this next part has spoilers, so if you don't want to see that, make sure you go ahead to the time listed in the video.
You want spoilers?
Okay, I'm assuming you left by now. While this game has some fantastic moments, some of the best in the series, why is most of what Sora does in this game pointless? Most of the game, which is going through Disney worlds, doesn't end up affecting anything in the overall story. Almost every event that isn't in the final 7 hours of the game is due to the side characters doing stuff. And sure, they can do things, but the main character should feel like he does something. What Sora does before the final act of the game just feels like a lot of wasted time that amounts to nothing. Some of the worlds don't even tell the story of the Disney worlds enough, due to some stuff just being straight up left out. Arendelle doesn't explain at all who this guy is, the main villain of the movie, and the Caribbean completely left out Xiao Fang and his army. It completely skips over the fact that Elizabeth killed Jack in an earlier movie, and completely leaves out the Conclave, which explains how Elizabeth became the Pirate Queen. Some worlds punish those who haven't seen the movies, and I would at least excuse this if going through the worlds ended up working towards Sora relearning the power of waking. But it doesn't. He didn't forget this ability. According to Ventus, it only activates when it is needed. I'm not kidding! Nice cop-out, Square. And it's not like he needed it to get Aqua back either. He defeats Aqua with ease by himself, might I add, and that's before they go to get Ventus. So that means if Sora ignored everyone from the beginning telling him no, and actually went to the Realm of Darkness to get Aqua, then a solid 16 hours of this 24-hour game, through my playthrough, would be gone and almost nothing would be different. If each world actually helped give him an idea of how to use the power, or to help reawaken it or something like that, then it'd be fine, but it's literally just a Deus Ex Machina. Exclamation points don't go away or dim if you go over them in the pause menu. They only go away if you leave the menu and go back to it. This I feel shouldn't be a thing because previous games didn't have this issue, and it can affect menu navigation because you'll have to remember what you have already looked at if you don't want to back out of the menu then go back in. You only go to this menu out of battle though, so it's not really a big issue given that you can safely go back into the menu right after. It's more of an inconvenience than anything else. The only issue, quote unquote, that I have for graphics is for flashbacks. Whenever a flashback occurs, the moments from the previous games are used in the previous game's art style instead of being redone. I do understand why this was done, since that's a lot of extra work for a few parts of cutscenes of the game, so I don't mind it much. It's just a really jarring difference for this game given that the graphics have increased so much since then. Gameplay wise, I absolutely love this game. There are a few things here or there that could be changed, but nothing really major that brings it down for me. The gameplay is fun, flashy, and satisfying. For music and visuals, it's the best spectacle for the Kingdom Hearts series yet. The main issue I have is with the story. Again, the story has some of the best moments from the series, and that's mainly built on the foundation of what the other games have given us. However, from the plot of this game alone, it can be handled so much better. I still highly recommend at least trying out this game and seeing if it's for you. I mean, over 5 million people already have within a month of this game being released, and that's the fastest any Kingdom Hearts game has sold. So there might at least be something here for you. If you're afraid of jumping in with no knowledge of the other games, read up on the story. You won't have to do much to find a story for each game. And if you don't even want to play for the story, then that's perfectly fine. There is the gameplay that I feel is the best part about this game. For those who have held Kingdom Hearts close to them, this is the game that we have been waiting for, and while there are some things that could have been done better, and if a final mix or DLC or something like that comes out, that could potentially fix those issues. However, I'm still content with the outcome of this game. This game is a big celebration for a series that has affected so many people's lives. We've created so many memories with this series, the friends we made along the way, and we may have even lost some of them. But what matters most is that we remember the things that have brought us all here. And all we can do now is wait and see what happens in the future. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you for making it to the end of this video. My goodness, this is the longest review video I've ever done, and it might stay that way for a very long time. But regardless, I'm still very happy that I managed to get through this game, because as a good amount of you, I've been waiting to play this game for a really long time. And for me to actually be able to play it and now review it is just astonishing. And by the way, the review script for this was 13 pages long. No, I did not do that intentionally. It actually almost ended up being 14 pages, which would have annoyed me. My biggest regret would have to be that this video is not my 13th review video, but regardless, I do plan on doing the other Kingdom Hearts games in the future, and I'll more than likely do at least most of those as collabs with other people that I know, because I feel like it'd be more enjoyable that way to have someone else along with the ride when it comes to doing those games. But I started with Kingdom Hearts 3 because that one's right here, right now, and it's extremely relevant, and I managed to review this game within a month. But again, my goodness, this is the longest video that I've ever done for a review, but who knows, maybe some other game in the future will break this record. I have no idea, but until then, we'll just have to wait and see. I have all of my social medias in the description below. My Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Discord are all ways that you can be notified whenever I'm going to be uploading a new video, any ideas that I have for another video, stuff like that. But if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, as well as share this out with your friends and family. And if you do want more Disney games, I have done other Disney games in the past, and I'll try and do more in the future, aside from Kingdom Hearts of course. But for right now, I'll try and focus on other things and then work my way up. But until next video, take care.
I want you for a lifetime, so if you're gonna think twice